Hello and welcome back. My name's Rain, this is my craft channel, and hopefully you're still you. This week I'm going to be making some resin crystals set into a fake rock using some fake moss inside a glass dome. Let's get into it. You're going to need a glass dome or a gloche, whatever you prefer to call it, and you can use a plastic one if you find that's all you've got or it's cheaper to use. I picked mine up in IKEA, I believe. So, fake crystals made out of resin. Now, the mould I used for these was quite old, and as you can see, they seemed quite dull when they came out of the mould. So I'm just giving them another coat of resin here just to make sure that I get that shine that I was looking for and that real crystal look. I use different shapes and size crystals to make it look interesting, and obviously I made them out of resin, but you can make these crystals out of hot glue gun sticks, just cut in crystal shapes and stuck together, so you would still get the same effect if you can't use resin. Anyway, I put a hole in the base of the, there's my phone there, put a hole in the base of the bell jar, just so it was easy access for the lights, and for somewhere for the lights to sit at the bottom. I just threaded the lights through, and for this project I used lights that had 30 lights on there, because I knew I needed a lot of lights to light up those crystals. I'm just simply going to glue gun the battery pack onto the bottom of the base there. Ideally the lights would be able to be turned off on the side, but that was way too complicated and the base was made of metal, so we're just sticking it at the bottom. Here I was just putting the crystals together and seeing which ones glowed better under the lights themselves. I'm just going to use some air dry clay. I was simply getting this out and getting this ready because we're going to need to make a base first, but I was going to need the clay any moment after the base had been built. So I just start off at the bottom with some tin foil. I use tin foil because it will hold its structure, and I'll also need to sort of gouge into it in a minute just to be able to set the crystals inside. And it will also mean that the project's not too heavy when it's all built out of clay. Just keep adding more layers of tin foil just to build up that rock shape at the bottom, and bear in mind that you want this to be quite tight. We need those crystals to fit in, and we also need that glass dome to go back over the top of it. So I was always measuring and remeasuring with that glass dome going over and making sure I had the right shape and size. So I just started at the bottom with some clay, air dry clay, and just pushing it down onto the base to make sure it was stuck all down nicely, and just really starting to shape the rock itself. Now once I had my clay and tin foil in place, I set the crystal under 3 lights each I think I used for them. Maybe some got 4, depending on the size of the crystal that I was using. And as you can see there, that I've gouged in a little bit here just so that the crystal can sit in the rock to give them the impression of them growing outside the rock. The majority of this is going to be covered with green foliage and stuff like that. So you just want to keep building up your crystals until you feel that you've got enough on show and it's interesting to look at. So most of the base has been built here, and I knew that I wanted the rock itself to continue on up. And again, I had to bear in mind that the glass dome needed to go over the top. So I was just playing around, building up that rock. Once I knew that I had the tin foil in place where I wanted it and the rock set where I wanted it, I just went over the top with some air dry clay. And there we go. All the air dry clay and crystals set in place. And obviously you're going to want to leave that to dry before you go on to the next stage of painting it. Here I was just smoothing down some of the clay with a little bit of water and making sure that I could get as much of it off and away from the crystals as possible, just so that they look clean at the end. Here I was testing the inside the dome, making sure that those lights still all glow and that I've got enough light coverage around the whole of the project. So here we are the next day, and I'm simply just painting this base green. You can use whatever green you have. We just wanted to give it an undercoat of the rock there. Now, I have made this project before, and it was for a friend who requested it actually. And when I made it originally, I painted this rock part brown, figuring that, you know, rocks, brown rocks, and have the moss growing off. But as you can imagine, it's a somewhat shape here, and when it was painted brown, it looked like, yeah, a big poop emoji with crystals sticking out of it. So instead, it now looks like a great big pickle with crystals sticking out of it. But hey, look, this isn't the final look, and we just want that green paint on there to cover some of the base and to act as a background for when we add the fake foliage in a minute. So I've covered the whole of the projects around the crystals with some fake moss in 2 different greens, just using PVA glue, and set those in and around the crystals so I know that the crystals look like that they were growing out of that rock, and the moss was covering as much as possible. You can actually make this moss out of sponge and blending that and adding a bit of green free dye. I actually had some fakes made up already, so that's what I used. Here I'm just using PVA glue into the base of the project. I probably could have done this in a better way. Originally I was going to leave the dirt so it went around the whole of the base, but then thought, you know what, that's going to make the dome rise too much. So I mixed the fake dirt that I have, I believe it's blended up cork substance. I mixed that all together and pushed that up against the rock itself, which actually gave me a better look at the end of it. So there's the cork substance. Here it is in the base, and you will see now here I have mixed it all together and pushed it up. Of course, when that PVA glue dries, it will dry clear, and you'll have a nice dirt base for your rock and crystals to sit on. Now I've got some more green moss, I guess you call it, in a different style, which is larger, and I'm just mixed up all the different coloured greens here, and I used a Yoo-hoo glue to stick this as it would dry quicker, and it clung to this type of moss better, and gave me more fuller coverage. And you're just going to want to go around the rock, filling out all those ugly bits you don't want to see. We can cover up and hide, and that green paint really is going to come in useful now. So we're almost at the end now, and we're just filling out the top part here and making sure that it all looks as natural as possible for fake grass, fake rocks and fake crystals can. And we're just going to making sure that all those colours are mixed up. I tried not to add too much of that bright green as it was such a contrast against the nice purple of the crystals. Now as a final touch, I'm just going back in with that smaller moss and squeezing that in and around the rocks and bringing it slightly over onto the crystals to again give it as much of a natural look as possible. And there you have it, we're complete. Glowing fake crystals on a fake rock covered in fake moss inside a glass dome. The craft gremlins seem to be satisfied for now. Before you go anywhere, if you've made it this far, please don't forget to give us a little like and hopefully a subscribe. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. Once again, I have been Rain, you have been fabulous, and I hope to catch you again next week. Goodbye.